So this is an unusual Scouser Abroad for REdGEM network target Albert program. It's Monday morning, grey and unusually cool, as we've been having some really nice weather recently here in Montenegro. I've been out in shorts several days last week, but it's a bit of a change this morning and sort of fits the atmosphere as the power's just gone off coincidentally at the same time as me posting something on the internet which more or less said that well guys, hello, I'm living in an open prison within a local and global police state. My guest at the moment, I'll just say DC or IR for abbreviation, was telling me about that recently a couple with a child was stopped by police and had to pay a penalty for having more than two people in the car. Now they're talking about actually reducing it to one person in the car. Where was that? The only one person in the car?
In Spain.
In Spain. Oh yeah, in Spain. So in Spain now they're one person in the car. I mean, when they say no people in the car, then I would actually agree with it, because then that would be very environmentally friendly and people can start walking and cut down the pollution in the air around the world. Do you know that 6 billion tons of pollution goes into the atmosphere every year from the exhaust fumes of car and truck vehicles? There you go. So that is what I would call a positive aspect of this hysteria, that if it reduces the amount of pollution pumped into the air by flights, traffic, transport and all that stuff, then there's something coming out of it. And maybe if it slows down people, that might not be a bad thing, because we tend to live a fast food life, and this means that people are bombarded with information which they churn over like SMS response, without any thought or consideration, especially when it's something stated by someone with a different opinion, an odd opinion, an alternative opinion. It's not really accepted by the general sheeple. And on the subject of sheeple, before I talk about that, the other thing is now is that also visitors are being put into quarantine, and they're not allowed to have visitors themselves, but they'll have to stay in quarantine for 2 weeks, and like in a virtual prison. I mean, the whole of the world is a virtual prison right now, but they'll be confined to a room, and this is, like, for me, way OTT when you consider all the different possibilities of dying. And if the fear factor here is that we're doing all this to stop people dying, what about stopping war, selling weapons, stopping the business of war? An average of 17 million people died every year from war in this world. Cancer. My wife and my sister died young from cancer. 10 million people died last year from cancer. Where's the urgency to stop that? Maybe change your life. Maybe stop the ridiculous number of hours that people are working to make a reasonable income. We've got it all wrong. I mean, 20, 30 years ago, we were talking about having a 4-hour day. And what's happening now is people are working longer. Why? Because it's all badly, very, very badly organized. The lifestyle. Why do we have all this panic all the time? Panic, panic, panic. You got to pass exams. Why is there pressure on kids to pass exams at a time when they should be enjoying life? That they pressure on them to get pieces of paper which probably now will be almost useless in getting a job. But if you haven't got a piece of paper, you haven't got even a chance. Something that says that you're qualified. But all it only means that you've been able to pass an exam. So we have all this young people under pressure. They've been, in many countries, they have to pay for a grant so they can go to university. So they're already in debt before they even start anything in their life. They're already under pressure from credit before they start. And then we put them into some job for 30 or 40 years, drain all the energy out of them, and then when they're 60 something, say, okay, now you're free, when they've got no energy and no enthusiasm to do anything. So this makes me wonder very much about the cause of this trending virus. Because it just reminds me of one of these things on Twitter. They say, this is now trending. And this is how the whole of society seems to have reacted to this. Look, Ebola, AIDS, all of these things were going to decimate the population. Did we have this? No. My parents lived through bombing of the cities where they were living. And they said that the main thing that they tried to do was live as normal as possible, to keep your spirits up, to keep positive. I worked as an apprentice, as a young boy, 16 years old in London, learning about shipping and logistics and that sort of thing. And at that time, there were the bombings of pubs in London. But we didn't stop going out. We still, during those later teenage years and my early 20s, when I was still based in London, we still went to all the pubs. We still went to all the parties. We didn't stop anything. At any time, we could have been blown to bits. And this is the mentality that we created a very soft, cowardly, sheeple society. People just follow like sheep. If they're told to jump, they jump. I mean, anyone who doesn't jump is considered to be something like a terrorist and treated like a terrorist if you don't follow the rules, which are mostly stupid. Look, I wrote recently on one of my blogs that actually sheep, calling them sheep is actually an insult to sheep, because it's more like lemmings. You know, lemmings that rush towards the cliff, jump over the cliff. It's like the whole world is full of lemmings who are actually looking for the sign. Cliff edge this way. Jump now. It's like a global suicide wish. I'm absolutely convinced that more people will suffer because of the panic than because of the virus. And I'm even more convinced that this virus was, I could call it intentional. It maybe was made or allowed to develop. Because what does it do? It puts everyone under control. Now you're all controlled. Don't have to worry about you now. No one's going to protest on the street. No one's going to complain. No one's going to go out and shout at the police. No. But you should. If you think something is wrong and you smell a rat in this whole situation, you should stand up and say so. It's part of my own personal history that 15th of April is a significant date. When I went into a coma around 20 years ago, and I woke up and I realized just how wrong everything is in this planet. And on this same day in 1989, 30 years ago, 96 of our brothers and sisters were killed as a result of policies from the government. Why should I trust them to tell me how to react to this situation? They've lied to you, they've lied to me, they've lied to everybody. I don't care which country you live in. They lie and lie and lie and lie, and you still follow them. What is wrong with you? So, as we are, we're going to just let it happen. So if maybe you could say it's the way it should be, that maybe we're overcrowded, maybe a certain percentage, as was prophesied by all religions and Nostradamus and I was going to say God knows who, that there will be plagues and so on. Well, you made them. You've made this beautiful planet into a mess. You've dumped rubbish. You've polluted the air. You fly everywhere. You use cars like just to go to the next street. And you don't share anything. So you're causing this, all of you. So take the blame, because it's karma. If it's not man-made, then it's karma. And maybe a bit of both. That this has come back to get you for living a selfish, stupid, ignorant life without care for anybody else. If that sounds hard, well, it's meant to be. So I don't know if this program will actually go out, because the producer of the station I was featured on seems to have taken my need to investigate the sources of censorship and blocking and so on. And I've had this for most of the last 20 years, since I started questioning the establishment. Emails, websites, Facebook, everything, every method of communication has had some blocker at different times, deleted mails, lost data, but I've always managed to distribute it anyways, one way or another. And there's still a lot of people out there on the network that are in tune with what's going on. We have through REdGEM connected to 160 groups worldwide. That links directly around about 900,000. Now, if you think of most people on social media have probably in their own group at least 100 of their so-called friends connected to their individual. So 900,000, that's 90 million people somehow connected to this. I'm not suggesting that everybody listens to this or takes note or even sees it, because these days with so much being bombarded 24/7 rubbish pumped into their mobile phone or laptop or whatever they're using. But on the other side, with this lockdown, this police state, local and global, maybe people have the time to question what's going on around them. Perhaps not to be a sheep, not to be a lemming and commit virtual suicide. How about this might be a chance for people to wake up and realize how much you are being manipulated? Are you brave enough to stand up? That's the big question. So, as this usually has a football related content, I of course in my own lifestyle in a strange situation, because usually I'm either playing, watching or training football. I've sponsored kids football locally. I've trained youth teams. I've usually played once or twice a week. And of course, if I can't, and I haven't gone to the Liverpool Stadium simply because I don't want to support the owners from the USA Corp. They've also exploited the football club, in my opinion, and there's another campaign going on about that. I still go to the pub and watch the games live. So there's like a huge hole in my daily schedule, making reports before the game, so like a preview before the game and then reports afterwards, and then obviously discussions about tactics and strategies and so on. And on our global network, we don't just talk about football, we also talk about current affairs, media, opinions about life. And this is going on, and all credits to the likes of John Oliver in the States, who challenges the establishment too. And I mean, we have to put everything in perspective. In a world where you have the President Donald Duck trumpet, and in the UK you've got Mad Boris, you got Putin, you got Macron, I mean, can you really take anything seriously? I mean, who's to blame for putting them there? You. Because if on a planet of something like 7 billion people, you allow a handful of people to decide your fate, who is to blame for that? Who is to blame for you having to follow the rules of stupid people? People who may be even, I suggest, and of course I will be accused of making conspiracy theories, but is it not possible that this virus is very convenient? I mean, Trump called it the China virus, so China gets to blame for starting this, but wouldn't it be possible that the CIA planted this virus? I mean, the USA, like everyone else, has developed biological warfare. All the major countries have developed biological warfare. And if they tell you they don't, they're lying, of course. So would it not be possible to plant a virus in China, let it develop around the world? You can then control everything. Your rich buddies can then invest into the stocks like soap and toilet rolls, and sell off their shares in other things when the market falls and buy in before it gets solved by perhaps some vaccine in the near future. China apparently within a month have controlled this pandemic. Well, being China, maybe they should call it a panda demic. Bad jokes. Anyway, so let's get back to football for a second, because those who may tune into this might be interested in the football situation. I think, we should, if possible, finish the season, but only if the supporters can fill the stadiums. Because if it's in an empty stadium, it's not real. The atmosphere will be, what's the word? Artificial. Yeah, artificial. It will be an artificial atmosphere, and it will be only just for the television, so that they can complete all their sponsorships and advertising commitments, so that they can get more money. It won't be because of the football supporters, because you don't matter to them. It's quite possible that in the future anyway, they'll just have virtual reality stadiums, so they'll create like visual effects, because they don't really want to deal with you people. I just want your money. So what they'll do in the future, as we are going, if it goes on like this, you'll just subscribe to some online video that you can watch the football match from your home or from the pub or wherever, or maybe not from the pub. Maybe they'll close down all the pubs, because this is a social meeting point where people could get together and discuss what's wrong. So maybe they'll just keep you online. You can pay your subscription. They'll create some visual effect that you can watch from your home, and they don't have to deal with people, and they don't want to deal with you, because one or two of you might actually have a voice. You might have the courage to say, why are we doing this? And that's the ideal. You see, if you put yourself in the position of someone who's rich and powerful, how can you lose it? You can only lose it if people oppose you. And if you put them at a distance, so you've got your island, your offshore island, or your villa with a huge wall and security, you're distanced from the public. You can send out someone to do things, chores and so on. You get cleaners to clean your place, and you just sit there whilst the rest of the sheep do what you want. So, are you going to wake up to this? I wonder, are you going to wake up and realize what's going on? The enemy is not the other people. It's not that other nationality. It's not that other religion. It's not that other ethnic group. It's not that other colour. It's the people up top. They're the enemy. They're your enemy. Those people who manipulate the society, those people who make the rules, those people who force you to live in a virtual police state, they're the enemy. They're evil, they are negative, and they're wrong. So, whilst we're waiting for football to return, if it does return, it's obviously unbelievably ironic that after 30 years of waiting for Liverpool to clinch this Premier League title, that 25 points ahead of everybody, including the unbelievable Manchester City team, Liverpool Football Club are in an unbelievable position, 25 points clear, and it stopped. I mean, it's almost like a conspiracy theory that it was done just to stop Liverpool Football Club winning that trophy. But, you know, in a strange way, two things come to mind. And I know just about no one will agree with me on this. But you know that the European Champions League final was due to be played in Istanbul. Well, we had our miracle final in 2005 when we came as underdogs against AC Milan and won the final at the last kick. That was a fantastic game, and if we played a final there this year, it maybe take away some of the magic from that time. I don't think anyone who experienced that final, and I had my own story, will ever forget it. Probably the most incredible football final ever. Liverpool have a history, of course, of these dramatic experiences. But when it comes back to the English Premier League, I have this opinion that, we're a socialist club. We have a socialist spirit, but we have the wrong people running the business. There's sharks in the boardroom. Look, they didn't get rich from being nice people, right? Hedge fund managers and billionaires behind the Fenway Sports Group, previously called New England Sports Ventures, I think. Anyway, they made their money with a virtual, something like a fraudulent way of getting money from people to invest in something which is not much more than hot air. And they made millions, billions. And these people, there's several billionaires behind that group. And they're friends even of George W. Bush. Now, no socialist with a heart would ever want to have any connection with that sort of person. I mean, he was an absolute villain. I mean, for me, he's even worse than Nixon. But there you go. Back to the madness, the March madness that we're in. And so, just for this first part of the program, I'm going to leave it there. But people, sheeple, lemmings, it's all down to you. You are to blame for whatever is going on. That's it for now. Part 1.